cigar shots.
Were you really?
Yeah, I had to run out there and get these.
I think Sarah. Sure. Yeah, and I was supposed to give it to you.
Oh.
When they get here, we get the fountain cake. Yeah. I forget that these were my own. I should have taken it to the. So what's that, $20?
Well, it will be,
Well, yeah, that's what I saw her, sure.
There'll be 2 lanes. They'll be built new roads.
Kevin, you said she's staying down there this summer?
Ooh. During that phase. I got faith in you.
That's a lot. Yeah, because it starts today, right? Yeah. I did summer classes, but I didn't do 10 hours. I think the most I did was 5 or 6.
Monday around 12.
That's a lot of fun.
So I might be able to access to insurance.
Yeah.
Yes. You can have it.
The nice thing is Pittsburgh in the summer is a ghost town. I mean, it's dead.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's what
Well, you definitely won't have the distraction. I never spent a summer in Pittsburgh. I did come back on the weekends. Yeah, I mean, I stayed over one day. I had Monday off from work, and I stayed over. People come back for the weekends because they're employment, but on Sunday night, you could hear coyotes. Yeah, it's that. I mean, it's just, there's nobody. That town is, I don't know, it's probably 24,000 now. And it's probably, there's 8,000 students there. Back that out, and they're all condensed in that little quarter-mile circle. They're all right next to each other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can't go at once. We gotta come up.
Yeah, by the plant.
I remember they used to listen to the whole thing. Back in the school.
Well, at least we have something else as opposed to somebody. I kind of like that.
Has everyone else been doing good for you?
Doing good, how about you?
All right, are we ready?
We're ready.
7 o'clock. I'd like to call the June 1st DeSoto City Council meeting to order. We'll start with roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Here.
Daniels,
Here.
Michael,
Present.
all are present.
All right, I would invite you all to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item tonight is our consent agenda. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have approval of the minutes from May 18th council meeting, approval of pay orders number 950, approval 2023 fireworks sales permits, approved permit and contract with Wald Company for the 2023 fireworks display, approved donation request from NFL Maker Market for Spring Fling, approved resolution 2008 allowing consumption of cereal malt beverages for summer concerts, approved temporary use permit for Reach Church block party. Is there any item anyone would wish to remove from consent agenda for further discussion? Hearing none, would someone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Hanamichael?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.
Ritter?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item 2 is call to public. Members of the public are welcome to use this time to comment about any matter relating to city business not listed on tonight's agenda. The comments that are discussed under call to public may or may not be acted on by the council during this meeting. Does anyone wish to address the council under call to public? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Item 3 is old business, which we do not have any, so we'll go to item 4A. Consider design contract or design services agreement with SFS Architecture for the City Hall remodel project.
You go ahead, Cameron, never mind me.
Okay, I didn't know if I needed to wait for you for something.
Making just some AV adjustments here.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before you is a agenda item requesting approval of the design services agreement with SFS Architecture. We put out an RFQ at the beginning of the year for architecture services for the remodel of primarily the second floor of City Hall into usable office space. Danny and Rob were both on that committee, saw those proposals as well as 4 staff members. After scoring, SFS Architecture was the clear and obvious choice for our project. Chet and I have had a meeting with them to discuss scope and fee, and you'll notice they've provided their scope of work as well as a fee, and it's a phased design approach with 2 phases. Phase 1 is primarily space programming, where they will send out a questionnaire to all the department heads, all the departments here in City Hall, conduct interviews to figure out what everybody's going to need personnel-wise now, as well as in the next 5-10 years. Try to project our space needs based on future projections of every department. It'll also include an existing building assessment. That includes the exterior conditions that were a part of that initial agenda item we brought before you, showing that there is some significant tuck pointing and water intrusion work that needs to be completed to make the space safe and usable long term. And then the last part of that phase 1 is conceptual design, trying to come up with a concept that works for the space that they are programming for, as well as what everybody's intent is. At the end of phase 1, they are proposing a presentation to council with the phase 1, the conceptual design, space programming, as well as the cost estimate for phase 2, which is the formal design, schematic design, and construction documents. You'll notice that the agreement only has a price for phase 1. Initially, they submitted it with a phase 2 fee of 10% of what they were calling their estimated budget. We had questions as to how they generated that budget when they didn't really have any conceptual design, things of that nature. And working with them, they felt that it was best, as well as we did, to remove that piece from it and just tie it to that standard 10% design fee once a more concrete plan's in place and we have a better understanding of exactly what type of work this building is going to require, to get a little bit better project estimate, as opposed to throwing a number at it before we even do a building assessment or anything of that nature. So what we're requesting currently is just the approval to proceed with the design services agreement for phase 1, and then at that presentation after phase 1 with the conceptual design, that would be when we would ask for approval for the rest of the design services agreement once a budget has been set, or a cost estimate has been set, and conceptual design has been approved by you guys as well as staff.
Okay. Any questions from council? Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah, I got a couple. On that phase 1, you mentioned who's included in the questionnaire for the space programming process, and I guess you didn't mention council, but I would hope council is included in that questionnaire.
Yeah.
Because as you get to the end, and the way it's laid out, the presentation to council at the end, to try to get input early so that you're not faced with a lot of questions at the end. And then as you proceed through that in terms of concept designs, is there an anticipation that they would present alternatives based on the requests or needs that are deemed to come from the programming process?
Yeah, so we haven't set a formal list of who all would and would not be included in that programming. Our initial discussions was every department at the city, whether they're here in City Hall or not, just to try to take everybody into account. We can definitely include council and mayor in that questionnaire to ensure that everybody's getting their feedback in early before we get too far down the road and have to come back and change things later. So I will make sure that they are aware of that, and we can definitely include you guys in that. As far as the conceptual design, if you look at their page numbers aren't on here, but they've got a work plan, a draft work plan. In phase one, they've got a concept design workshop. What they've told Chet and I that's going to look like is they will actually set up here at City Hall after they've got some initial designs, have a meeting, we'll look at it, what do we like, what do we not like, things of that nature. They'll make changes all in real time to where we can make the best use of space or best use of time and not have to shoot these concepts back and forth and take weeks of time trying to get them changed. And that workshop is something that I've envisioned, similar to the RFQ review process where council and mayor would have representation on that conceptual design to help at that point, because it's a whole lot easier to make those changes then than after it's presented before you and having to come back and make those changes
My
later.
question, my concern being, just looking at the workflow as it was presented here on paper, the council presentation at the end, if you ended up with, having to jump back, then you're eating up time and you're eating up ideas. But it sounds like you're contemplating that workshop is really where you resolve the iteration of alternatives.
Yeah, and that's where it says council presentation. I think that's their placeholder for their formal presentation of the conceptual design to council. I don't think that there's been any intention to not include council during those workshops or anything of that nature. It just wasn't written on paper by SFS.
Answers my question. Thank
But
you.
we've got the ability to select that team that's going to be a part of that conceptual design group.
Lori,
Nope, no
Rob?
questions, thank you.
Kevin?
No, good questions.
Oh, Danny, all right. Ready for a motion?
So we're looking for a motion to move forward with contracting with SFS for,
Approve the design agreement for phase one services, yeah.
so moved.
I'll second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Hanamichael,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Lane. Lane.
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you, council.
Very good. Thank you, Cameron. Item B, consider resolution 2009 for use of bow and arrow at 8466 Corliss Road.
Yes, council, we haven't had one of these in a while, but, the city code prohibits the discharge of a bow and arrow outside the confines of a building, in the city of DeSoto. Years ago, due to the population of deer, we passed an ordinance creating this exemption. And essentially the way it works is the applicant is the owner of the property. They're required to send letters to any adjoining property owners, letting them know that this application will be considered at tonight's meeting to give an opportunity if there are neighbors that want to address the council with concerns. The applicant did comply with all of the requirements of the exemption, and what you have before you is resolution number 2009, and it covers all of the requirements of the exemption, and the applicant is required to, whoever is hunting the deer, they're required to have a copy of this resolution on their person. So with that, I believe the applicant's here. But happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, just need a motion to approve the resolution.
Is this the only one we'll have active right now, then?
Yes.
They're an annual
Right.
Right.
Yep.
My neighbor used to get them, but he sold the property. So. Any questions from council? Would you like, yeah, please approach the podium, just state your name and address.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Bart Branyan. I live at 8466 Waverly Road. I did want to make the correction. I saw on the slide it listed as Corliss Road. I do live on Waverly, so I just,
Yeah.
I did want to just change that before
That's
anybody
right.
put pen to paper on anything like that.
Was it the
I appreciate your
agenda listed that
consideration
way?
on that.
Resolution.
The agenda does.
The agenda's wrong.
So just wanted to step up but otherwise I appreciate your consideration.
Appreciate that.
Ready for a motion?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion, we approve resolution number 2009 as written.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Huntermichael.
Yes.
Ritter,
Yes.
Lane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Item C, consider an agreement with American Pipeline Systems, Inc. related to pipe cleaning in the well field. Chet, is that you?
Yep, Mayor and members of the council, this contract is for cleaning of the lines within the well field. We're experiencing a lot of back pressure on some of the pumps. It's reducing our ability to get water to the treatment plant. It's been a bit of a complicated project. We've bid it as one project initially and got no bids. So we split it in half and got one bid for the pipe cleaning portion, but we'll still gonna try to get bids again for installing valves and.
We have to have access points to get into the
Yeah.
pipelines, is that?
Yeah, so if we get the next, the second project would actually, we wouldn't have to de-water as much, and we get access right at the wells, so. I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions from council? Did we compare, I mean, how's this cost compare relative to the last big, I guess it's a whole different line.
Yeah,
That was
it
a
is.
much bigger
Actu-
line we
yeah.
did, so. it's
And these
not-
lines actually are lines that we did not do with the big projects several years ago. These were not clean. So these haven't been cleaned
In 40 or 50
in
years.
our experience,
Right.
at least 20 years. So it is below the engineer's opinion of probable cost, which is the other metric that we have.
All right, any questions? Ready for a motion then?
Is there two lines?
Two lines, Chet?
No, there's, I believe there's four.
Four.
out there. I'd have to, I can get you a map on that tomorrow.
Okay. All right.
Okay, any other questions?
I'll make a motion, we move to authorize the city administrator to execute a contract for the wellfield pipe cleaning services with American Pipeline Systems in the maximum not to exceed amount of $146,900.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Lane,
Yes.
Huntermichael.
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Ritter.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Item D, discuss 2023 road maintenance program.
Yeah, Mayor and members of the council, on April 2nd, we entered into an agreement where the governing body invested resources with, it's Public Works One was the name of the company, but they did, I don't know if you saw it, but they drove the entire city and camera, kind of like a street view you'd have in Google. So they drove the entire city. They inventoried our signs, which is probably the next phase of this progression of using their services. But as we're discussing tonight, they did a pavement condition assessment of every road in town. And what they returned was, it's called an RSL, remaining serviceable life. So, and along with recommendations for improving the roads. So put together a little slideshow and then recommendation of projects at the end. The first slide are the raw results that we got from Public Works. So you can see the different colors indicate the different remaining service life throughout the road, throughout the city. So if you flip to the next one, what I did is change on this one, changed 0 and 4 to white, so that way it stands out a little bit more. So as you see whiter, that's when, they either have 4 or 2 years of serviceable life, or less than 4. So the next map is kind of alarming. So that's all the roads with less than 6 years of serviceable life in the city. And we did some ground truthing on this, probably about 10%. We need to do more to make sure we agree with their recommendations. And then if you flip one more slide, we're almost, everything's less than 8 years. So I think Councilman Hanemichael brought this up in the budget discussions, that there are needs out there. So so our recommendation with that program is 3 projects. The first is one that did not get constructed last year because of funds, and it's 89th Street or 88th Street in Oak Manor Estates, and we're recommending a mill and overlay. Estimated cost, it's east of Cedar Creek Road up to Hillview Drive, and we estimate that cost at $103,000. And that would be our number 1 recommended priority because did not get completed last year. Out of the pavement analysis and maps, you can see that 83rd and Peoria also rated pretty low. And so we'd recommend that as the second priority project at $87,000. And then the final project is Timber Trail and Cedar Ridge neighborhoods. Along with a lot of pavement damage out there, there's a lot of curb issues out there. Had some bad batch of concrete and have quite a bit of curb repair that's needed. And so that, if we estimated everything in yellow, we didn't go all the way to the north end because there's still some construction activity with home building and stuff up there. So that's $726,000 that we recommend, which, so the total is $916,000 with these 3 projects. The annual budget's $550,000. So what we would propose is to do, or recommend, is to do the first 2 projects and then break the Timber Trail and Cedar Ridge projects out into phases and packages where we could pick the highest priorities first, and then basically go up till we have exhausted that $550,000 budget. Along with this project, we are also going to bid out concrete repair for sidewalks, and that will be paid out of the concrete or the sidewalk budget. And then we're also going to loop in some parks trail projects and the parking lot at City Hall. So try to get some economy of scale by combining all those. And there's also detailed cost estimates at the end if you're interested. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
All right, questions for Chet?
Either Chet or you, a typical project that we do is 8 years, the most you're ever gonna get out of a road? Because I mean, if everything is due and we've been doing projects and we did 2 big projects last year, why are they still 8 years or less before they're, I mean, is that like the max you're gonna get out of a road?
Well, like an overlay's like 15 years, right? I
Right.
mean, if you take care of it and you crack seal it and keep it along the road. But so every 15 years you plan it on a mill and overlay, and then after a couple, 3 cycles of that, you've got a reconstruction of that. So, something, if we just mill and overlaid something 8 years ago, it should have another 8 years, 7 or 8 years of life. But,
Well, so some of the repairs we've done recently have not been mill and overlay. We've not done a lot of it. So it was the UBAS stuff, which is a thin layering. It initially looks like a mill and overlay, but its lifespan, there's not a lot of research. I mean, it hasn't been around that long to have a lot of depth of research on the life of that. But we're hearing anywhere from 4 to 6 years on the life of a UBAS, and then chip seal would be less, so.
Which would be why Lexington's showing up. Because it was recently worked on, but it was UBAS.
It was UBAS. Yeah.
right.
And Kill Creek as well? Was Kill Creek UBAS, or was that
Yep.
chip seal?
it was,
Whatever.
No, that was
It's
chip
a-
seal.
yeah,
It was
it's
chip seal. Yeah.
and its last overlay was,
It was
the ARPA
09.
project.
It was the ARPA project.
so 09 was the overlay
So
on Kill
yeah,
Creek.
and then the transverse cracks on that are just an absolute problem child.
It's like 14 years on it, yeah, and that's got the transverse tracking and,
I was, so just because I live there, 98th Street, that was just overlaid a year or
Yeah, a
two
couple years
ago. I'm
ago,
surprised
it
it's
should-
showing, scroll back.
Well, so it's at 8 years,
Okay, it's in 8 years.
so that kind of jives, I
Right.
guess, yeah.
What, and, the Timber Trails area, those roads are probably pushing 20 years?
Yeah, that was, the early 2000s, oh
Yeah,
one.
so that doesn't surprise me. What surprises me is, and again, it's just from experience driving, I would have thought DeMeadows roads would have been in worse shape than Timber Trails at this point. Why Timber Trails over DeMeadows?
Yeah, we've done some stuff down there in the last 10 years in Demeto. We haven't touched timber trails. I mean, aside from crack sealing.
We have in
But in Meadows,
DeMeadows,
yeah, we have. Yeah,
We
we've done
could-
some.
curb and gutter,
We've done some curb replacements. That's mostly what we've done.
Yeah.
Is the curb
but the
and
pavement
sidewalks.
condition is comparable. So
Yeah,
I'm gonna guess, DeMeadows is probably 15 years older than
yeah,
Timber
older.
Trails.
It was it was 90s,
90s?
early 90s. So,
Yeah, so probably better constructed from the beginning.
hard to say.
I would add something that was interesting to this is before we got the results of this, the street crews said, "Oh, we need to do these three places," and they were the 3 places that showed up. as
So just
priority.
their kind of gut
Yeah,
feel, just their experiences.
Yep.
okay, any other questions?
I hope we're doing good inspection on all new subdivision projects getting built, because,
Yeah.
the subdivision I'm in, Cherish Oak, is about the same vintage as Timber Trails, and really lousy initial construction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was slightly before. Yours is slightly older than.
A little bit older.
And it had the rural section.
Yeah, it had the rural
roads.
ditch section versus curb and gutter, but I would say subgrade, base, pavement,
Mhm.
attention to that detail was
Yeah.
probably not very good at the time.
And some of what we're dealing with out in Timber Trails was that period of time where the concrete was bad.
Yep,
So the
aggregate
curb was
problems.
a problem there. Chet has turned me on to a term that it costs more to own a road than it does to build a road. So we'll remember that even after he's left us.
yeah, and I think this map really does highlight the challenge that we do have in front of us when it comes to thinking about what we're budgeting, what we're allocating towards road maintenance and replacement repair.
Mhm. It'll
We
be
got
good.
a lot of miles of road relative to our population.
Yeah.
And relative to our frontage. We've got a lot of
Right.
frontage
Yep.
relative to numbers of homes.
Right.
Well, the added revenues to come will be welcome to fill some gaps like this.
How long have we been at this number, the 550 on our budget? Do you remember?
It's been 3 or 4 budget cycles. Yeah, we started at 450, I think, and now it's 550. But I think when I first did this type of analysis way back in the mid 2000s, I think at that point I estimated we needed to spend close to 800,000 a year on road, and at the time
We were spending
we were spending about
80,000.
100,000. Yeah.
Is it possible to increase it a little this year? I mean,
Well, we
Well,
can
that's the
talk about that.
recommendation, right?
Yeah, later. No. I mean, it's not well, Chet's recommendation, he just shows the priorities and the sequence of projects. But we're still, the plan for this year is to maintain the budget, right? The 550.
Right.
That's the plan. So we're not going to be able to get the whole subdivision done out of Timber. It'll be next year's, like we do this year, have holdovers from the previous year. So it'd be the 24 budget that we're talking about, potentially increasing. Yeah.
But by bidding it, Timber Trails and packages, we'll be able to get the most, take advantage of the full budget.
Sure, we'll spend every dollar we have.
makes sense.
The other thing, it'll be interesting to kind of track this over time to see if these RSL numbers in average are going down, declining, getting better. It's a progress tracker. So that's another advantage of the program that Chet started us on. So no action needed tonight. We'll bring back subsequent project bids for your approval.
Item E, discuss the current water and sewer system development fees and meter rates.
Yeah, Mayor and members of the council, as we talked about last meeting, we wanted to see how we compare to our peer cities and neighbors on our system development and connection fees and meter rates. And I apologize in advance. The agenda references Exhibit B. I was able to get both of them on one sheet, get the text updated, so there is only one exhibit. So I don't know how many people have had a chance to look at it, but we're quite a ways behind on our system development fees right now. You know, if you look at the chart, some of the minimum and maximum differences for a water connection fee just for a single family, we charge currently collect $1,750 for the system development fee plus the meter. Edgerton is the highest in our region, but they're $10,000 higher than we are. But we're consistently more than 2,000 or 3,000 below people in our surrounding areas. And if you look at the providers in the city of DeSoto, Water 7 is $5,250 higher for a single family, and Water 1's $4,000 higher. So there's opportunities there to increase funds for the system development fees. And then if you look at the 2-inch meters, Water 7 is about $48,000 higher than we are, and Water 1's approximately $39,000. So, and then when you look at the sewer rates, they're also tied to this meter size, and we range from $4,000 to $5,000 less than our neighbors for single family, and the range is $180,000 to $380,000 less for 6-inch meter. So, and you know, the reason the system development fees really to help pay for the infrastructure and the you know, the water rates are to pay for treatment and distribution, but the system development fees to build, you know, the infrastructure. So, you know, if you look at a 6-inch meter right now, if we had somebody come in with a 6-inch meter and run 24 hours a day, they would consume over 2 million gallons a day, which exceeds our plant, what we produce in the plant. So it's, I think the council is very wise in taking a look at this before we get a lot of big buildings and big meters out in the southwest growth area. So I'm available for any questions.
Maybe more for Mike. Do you know how we originally established?
Yeah, it was almost 20 years ago. And at the time, I think all the other communities had equated their development fee to what it would cost to build capacity in the treatment plants, essentially. So if you look at a 1-inch meter, it's got a certain capacity, you know, that it typically, you know, customers who have 1-inch meters typically buy. That takes up that incremental amount of capacity in a water treatment facility. And at that time, water treatment facilities cost about $2 a gallon to build. So if you wanted a 2 million gallon a day water plant, you had to spend about $4 million on it. Well, now that number's about 10. So if you want, you know, a 2 million, you have to spend $40 million. So that's how it was originally arrived at. And I don't know if that was a statutory requirement that we had to kind of do that proof basis, but that's what everybody else was doing. And I don't think that's materially changed. Some of the more sophisticated, like Water One, will include distribution system improvements in that as well. So they have a pretty thick book and analysis on how they arrived at those development fees. We have a really good opportunity now. We're building capacity at both the water and the sewer plant. 18 months from now, we'll know exactly how much those cost. We have good estimates on it already. So we can do that exercise again pretty easy. The policy implications are, first thing comes to mind is that you have developers already who have subdivisions who are building houses, who have a pro forma who's already set, and I'd hate to come in and almost retroactively impose these on any building permit going forward. Should probably be allowances for grandfathering of those. We should probably have some sort of a ramp-up period to this, or some sort of at least an outreach development community that this sort of thing is coming, and if you're planning a project, you need to incorporate these costs into that. So there are some other policy implications to discuss.
Okay.
But that would be the next step, is to kind of do that analysis, set where we think our rates should be. So it's system development fees, but it's also the fees we charge for meters, because within our current fee schedule, we're almost losing money on anything other than a 3/4 meter. We're almost losing money. So we need to take a look at that too.
Just in setting the meter.
Yeah. Well, buying the meter and then going out and spending 2 or 3 hours with the 2 guys in the truck out there. Yeah. And when we were trying to encourage building permits, that was all fine, right? We were kind of supplementing that activity, and that practice worked. But I think we're in obviously a different environment today.
Well,
Question.
we brought this up mainly because somebody was asking to have them reduced, and it's kind of makes me almost laugh now.
Yeah, you can see why I was so incredulous at the last meeting.
We were so low compared to what they're what others are. So, so Mike, is the review of this, obviously, I feel we need to do it and start putting a plan together, but would this be something that we would do in-house, or do we contract this out with somebody that does this sort of thing? Or what would be the best process?
I'd had thoughts about, and even with our water commodity fee structure and all that, doing some larger comprehensive study on the costs, but I thought the time for that would be after the new facilities are online and we know what those operational costs are for sure. We're not dealing with estimates. I think that's probably an exercise for 18 months from now, when those facilities are done. But this sort of thing, we can do this in-house with in-house resources. If I need somebody to develop a spreadsheet, we can call on one of the consultants to do that. But I think the system development charge, meter charge, something we can do in a couple months with in-house resources pretty easy. But I do think we need to spend a little time communicating with the development community and those who have projects going on to make sure they know about the changes and can provide us whatever feedback they might have on it.
And to take advantage of a good deal while we got the opportunity.
Right.
Yeah, we might see.
Well, we might suspend any 6-inch meter sales, right? I mean, until.
Yeah, just hold off on
We'll
those.
hold off on anything bigger than a 2-inch or an 1.5 inches.
Well, I don't
Yeah,
know.
2 inches.
It's a lot of water.
That's a sweet spot though. I mean, good grief, we're.
You're getting a lot.
On 2-inch meter.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments from council?
Well, with your direction, I think we'll pursue those changes, and bring that back later.
Item F, discuss 2024 budget.
Yes, council, not a whole lot of detail this evening for you, but kind of a reset on the direction, overall direction on mill levy. After the meeting, the mayor and I had a couple of discussions about how we're projecting, very conservatively projecting, specifically sales tax revenues. We talked a little bit last time about the franchise revenue projections and how we're now less conservative than our practice had been, and I think there's very good reason for that. We didn't talk much about these sales tax projections, and I think over the time that, at least that I've been putting the budget together since 2016, there's been some apprehension because there's been double-digit increases in sales tax revenues year over year over year, and there initially was apprehension about that because we're worried that we didn't really know exactly what the source of the double-digit increase was. It seemed out of step with the countywide increases that weren't ever really reached kind of the double-digit level that we were seeing. So we did some analysis to try and figure out the root of those, and what we concluded was it was just generally economic activity within the city of DeSoto and the county in general. There wasn't any one thing. There wasn't any magic bullet that was going to go away in the future. So we got comfortable with our conservative projections in that way. And so since that time, what we've been doing is at budget time, we're never more than halfway through the year at budget time. So we have to project what the sales tax revenue is going to be at the end of the current year. So, and what we typically do at budget time is we project that artificially low to remain very conservative. And so, and a lot of times that's even actually below what we actually collected the previous year. So I did that again this year. So in this chart here, this is what you were presented, I presented on May 18th, is this chart here. So if you just look at the top line, so everything from 2022 and before are actual collections. So you can see this year over year double-digit increase. And in 2022, it topped out at 2.45 million or so. Within the budget projections, I made the assumption that that number is going to go down substantially. Take this dip, essentially equate to what we'd collected in 2021. So make a big dip, and then proceed forward with kind of moderate budget increases in the out years. So what the mayor and I discussed was this has never happened, and well, I guess it sort of happened back here in 08, 09 during the recession, but it's never gone, other than that, since 2010, it's gone up, right, for the last 13 years. No reason to think that it's not going to go up again. The collections through April exceed those of last year by 10%. So if you look at just January through April of 2022, compare that to January through April of this year, we're 10% higher. Again, a 10% increase. So there's not really a realistic possibility that that number is going to go down. So if you just make that adjustment alone and say we're going to end 2023 with the same sales tax that we collected last year, so you gain about $73,000 in general fund balance just by doing that. And then it sets this increase curve at a higher level for the projection period. So that is this chart here. So what this chart shows, the orange dotted line are the same projections I gave on May 18th. And then you can see how it dipped there and then it continued up. And then the new blue line are these new assumptions. So we just keep sales tax level through the end of 2023 and start the 2024 projections on the same kind of curve as we saw last time, which, by the way, are lower single-digit increases. They're 3 to 4 to 5% increases rather than the double-digit thing. What that does really alone is allows us to consider lowering the mill levy again by as much as 1 mil. So the draft budget that I presented last time was keeping a level mill levy. And largely the reasons for that was some staffing increases that that we've anticipated needing in 2024, just because increased demands on resources from new activity, and then also the sheriff's contracts going up by $150,000. So that's pretty significant increase. So all that stuff still stays the same if we just take our projections, and really what the projections do, they make more of a difference in the out years in the 5-year projections than they would for a single year, like next year or the year after. So just making that adjustment essentially allows us to consider a rollback of the mill. And so just wanted to present you with that. I did, in the exhibit, provide the 5-year forecast. Essentially all these numbers wind up reflecting in this chart here, which still, I talked about this great big funding balance at the end of this year, which are essentially revenues that will go straight out the door next year, more or less pass through. So you kind of ignore this great big revenue or fund balance bump this year. If you just look at this trend that ignores that one, it's more common to what we're used to seeing. We have fund balances in the 40 to 50% range, moderating toward the end of the projection period to 30%, which is our policy level. So we just wanted to present that to you, knowing that we're still having these conversations with department heads about specific needs. And we have the vehicle equipment replacement stuff to get to you, and some of the other funds. There's some suggestions on like the equipment or the property maintenance funds, the aquatic center maintenance funds, and some of those other funds that we'll still get to. So for tonight, that's really what I had on the budget. Like to have any feedback that you want to give on that. But I think moving forward, we can look to decrease the mill. So for example, the property assessments, the valuations increased 11%, 11.5%. So essentially, property tax revenue would still go up even with this mill levy. So that was it. I'll stand for any questions.
Questions?
Well, just a couple thoughts, talk of pending recession in the media, and about every economic forecast I've been to this year is still saying, late 2023 recession. So, and we're budgeting in our rearview mirror, right? You're looking at what our sales tax revenue and property values are and that kind of thing. So on one hand, you go, are we hedging it all on a recession? On the other hand, I wonder, what are we actually seeing, particularly with that chart right there? Are we actually seeing, or is it too early to tell, of our sales tax revenue within the city getting a boost from the construction activity that's
Right.
occurring
Yeah.
at Panasonic, that's going to be occurring at other areas around here, from just workers coming into Casey's or Harps, living at K10 Place, shopping at Harps now, or whatever it may be, because you're a couple of months behind in terms of
Yeah, the
getting
April
that-
collections, right.
You're
are-
just now seeing April.
Well, we just
Or you're
ended.
just now seeing March.
We're just now seeing March.
You're just now seeing March, so you're behind in terms of being able to see the actual economic impact of our city of that construction worker activity, and that Panasonic via Turner Yates has got $1 billion worth of construction a year going on. So that should insulate us in some ways from greater recessionary concerns and that kind of thing. So, I don't know how much you bet on the upside. I think flat is going. I think flat is conservative. I don't think you need to forecast the dip that you have been in the past, just from my
Right.
perspective. But I'm going to be real curious to see when we start seeing a sales tax revenue trend because of the increased construction activity in our area.
Well, and also keep in mind, there's still only 250 workers out at the site.
Yeah.
At some point
Yeah.
in later in the fall, it's going to be 6,000. So it really hasn't even started to impact.
So as far as the mill levy, without making this adjustment, you were projecting mill levy staying neutral. How's the revenue neutral play into that as far as
Oh, we would be exceeding the revenue neutral.
by how much?
I
Roughly.
can get that number. I don't have it right off the top of my head, but we would certainly we would exceed.
Mike,
Do you have it?
we haven't received it. We'll get it no later than June 15th. We usually get it a couple days ahead of time. So when we get that number, I'll give it to Mike and we'll get it out.
Last year, we'd always work with an estimate, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and that's where, once the revenue neutral and its predecessor, the property tax lid, kicked in, lowering a mill levy didn't necessarily equate to lowering taxes as far as our out-of-pocket taxes.
Right.
So that's where, when we say we're holding it, or when we're saying we're lowering it, it's a matter of, okay, what impact is that going to actually have on how much of a property tax increase people would see from that? And that'd be what I'd be curious to see on, not just because I'm with the mayor in agreement on changing the projections the way we've changed it, wholly agree with that. But whether it was your other prediction or even the one where we're talking about lowering, what impact are we going to be seeing as far as that is one thing I'd like to know.
Tax dollars paid, not
Yeah.
mill levy, yeah. I think last year, the discussion we had around that, because we had a similar property valuation increase, and we had a similar mill levy deduct. We didn't deduct the mill levy dollar per dollar, but at the same time, inflation was at 8%.
Yeah.
So if you took that into account, it was just an inflationary increase. It was somewhere in the middle there.
So,
Okay. Any other thoughts?
For now, more to come.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mike.
Good, thank you.
I think we have a couple of executive sessions coming up.
so I'll make a motion, we recess into executive session at 7:48 for 5 minutes to discuss acquisition of road right-of-way pursuant to land acquisition Kansas KSA 75-4319B6, with the open meeting resuming in the city council chambers at 7:53.
Okay, we have a second.
I'll second the motion.
All right, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right.
Ben, Patrick, I don't think, there's nothing that I'm conflicted on in this one, correct?
I don't.
Okay.
There's no.
No,
there's-
BHC did do the surveys
We
for
did,
the
this
for
goes
the
good.
right-of-way acquisition.
So I will be sitting out of the executive session. Thanks for coming.
Like, if it's okay, I'll introduce myself.
No,
I'm great.
yeah, I think we met before, because you ran for legislature.
Yes.
Yeah,
Courtney Tripp.
yeah, Courtney, yeah. Wife's Diane. I think you and Diane might have exchanged some emails.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, well, very good.
Yeah.
Appreciate your interest.
Running for council this cycle, so.
Yeah, very good. And you're in marketing or PR?
Well, I've been in marketing. I actually just took a job back at Grundfos where I've worked before.
Oh,
But
okay.
I'm leading strategy and sustainability this time, so
Okay.
digging more into that side of things. They've got a lot of big goals on the industrial side in terms of where they want to see the strategy move.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, good deal. Well, you get a little bit of glimpse here.
You're
and there,
with
so I'm with
BHC.
BHC, Civil Engineers and Surveyors. Yeah. And we did the survey out on 110th and Lexington for KDOT, and so those exhibits now are all cycling back through to the right-of-way
gotcha.
acquisition. So I'm like, yeah, okay. I end up being conflicted.
I'm familiar with BHC. Years ago, I did marketing for, before it was acquired by McClure,
Oh, Schaefer
SKW.
Klein.
Yeah.
Oh, so did you work with, she's over at Terracon now.
Oh, Dina?
Dina. Yeah, Dina Rude.
We missed each other by like months. I mean, and then I actually recently reconnected with her to talk about some stuff, potential position at Terracon. So
Oh,
ended
so
up
did
at
you cross
Grundfos,
paths
but-
with Laura Terrebonne?
Yes.
Yeah, Laura
yes.
works for us now.
Oh,
She went,
that's
yeah, she
great.
followed to McClure and then she jumped over to us.
Oh, that's
right
so
about a
good.
year ago. She's amazing.
She's outstanding.
Yeah,
I loved working with her.
yeah, well, very good. Yeah, she's great. Just bringing a whole new vibe, whole new energy. She's got a whole new set of, connections and relationships. And
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, well, good deal. So, you were at Schaefer Klein up until the acquisition, or?
It was getting
No, it
close.
would have been before.
It was
'cause
before, but it was like,
You could see what, something was going on. Yeah.
might have been like, it was a good time
Yeah,
to
so
make a
Brian,
move.
Brian Johning was
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, that was just an odd combination of people. And, yeah. It is too bad because it's an old school company, been around forever.
Oh, yeah.
Stellar reputation,
And so,
and it
so-
just kind of flew apart.
yeah, I know, and it was a shame, and, some great people there like Laura and,
Yeah.
the team of marketing team, Greg Shelton was leading that, he's now over at Black and Beach, and like a bunch of us have,
Mm.
stayed in touch as we've bounced
Mhm.
around to different places, but,
Yeah, so do you work at home, or do you work in Lenexa, or?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, little-
A little of both.
Yeah.
Technically, it's a remote position, but I'll end up going into the office some because, working with some of the product managers and so
Mhm.
on, it's going to be, there's nothing that can replace a good whiteboard session
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Whiteboarding via Skype still isn't quite the same as in person.
Yeah, well, very good. Well, I appreciate your interest in this. We need, we need some good folks, and particularly with all the opportunity coming up.
Oh, yeah.
So.
It's an exciting time for us.
Yeah.
So,
It's a family affair.
Right, I mean, I didn't think we needed it for a 2-hour movie. Hour.
We got one more minute by my watch, huh?
So I'll use up part of the minute. Tell you guys I'll be in Ireland next week.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
I saw that.
That sounds awesome.
Family, or just you, family?
Family.
Family?
Yeah.
Everybody.
Everybody.
Oh, wow, that's gonna be a good
Awesome.
time.
Yeah.
That's,
Enjoy it. Lots of-
all right, I have 7:53, so we are back in regular session.
I'll make a motion, recess into executive session at 7:54 for 5 minutes to discuss filling open state position with identified applicant pursuant to non-elected personnel, KSA 754319B1, with open meeting to resume in state council chamber at 7:59.
Okay, we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. We are in executive session. Yeah.
Again.
I got stuck.
So you got in on the haircut, huh?
I did, yeah, exactly.
Staying for the executive sessions, huh? Really are a trooper. Good for you.
I wanted to visit with Lori a little bit afterwards.
Yeah, get a feel. I get it. Get a feel for it. I get it. Yeah. I don't think I introduced myself. I'm Brandon Mills, the assistant city administrator and city clerk. Nice to
Courtney
meet you.
Tripp,
Very
nice to meet you. Don't imagine that executive sessions
I mean, I've worked at quite a few organizations, and sometimes they come back and they go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. This one, we'll see. Can't speak to this one. Depends how long they want to talk. So,
Yeah.
but they only took it for 5 minutes, so
yeah.
so we should be back pretty quick. The trick is that they're not supposed to come back until a set point in time.
Oh, yeah.
That way, the newsman was walking out the door on the phone, and they came back and quickly voted on something, you wouldn't. That's the,
Makes sense.
yeah, that's kind of the logic behind it. Chet, are you taking any time off between? You're just going right back? Okay, that's annoying.
let's do this instead.
We'll go back and do that. Let the mayor call it in and then.
Fire? Oh, yeah.
7:59, we are back in regular session.
We need to take action
Right.
on prior, so
Do that.
I'll make a motion that we approve $31,000 for land acquisition.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion of the motion? Roll call, please.
Murdoch,
Yes.
Daniels,
Yes.
Monaco,
Abstain?
Ritter,
Yes.
Lane,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay. Advisory report, city administrator.
Yeah, council, just one thing. I think you all know that Chet's last day with the city will be June 9th, so a week from tomorrow. That means this is his last night in front of this board. So I wanted to take just a moment to thank Chet for his time here. It was short. I'm sure he was on a learning curve that has not ended yet, but you know, he was able to jump into you know, the processes with everything going on between, you know, KDOT and Panasonic and the developers, and was a tremendous help from day one. And I know he'll be a tremendous help until the very last day too. He's got a full week ahead of him tomorrow, and you know, Chet's the type guy, he's not going to check out on us. So he'll give us a full. So Chet, just thank you personally. Congratulate you on your new position. I know that's something that's very attractive to you, and you look very much forward to. And we'll still be neighbors. So yeah, thank you for your time here, Chet. We might even throw him a party next week, but it's still a secret. I think.
That it?
That's it. Yep.
All right, thank you. City attorney.
Nothing for me.
Assistant city administrator.
It's a mouthful. Nothing today there.
All right. I'm gonna close with you. Chet, what
Yep.
do you got?
So June 12th, 103rd Street will be closing between Astor Parkway and Edgerton. So June 12th, they'll officially be kicked off out there and rolling. So I'd like to thank Councilmember Lane and the mayor for their time on the wastewater treatment. Got interviews next week. Should have a selection, you know, that probably after that last interview, the way we did last. June 21st, there's a water treatment plan workshop, and we're hoping to have a 30% guaranteed maximum price at that point. So that's really rolling along well. The consultant and Garney are doing really well. And then, you know, Mike kind of stole my thunder on being the last, but, you know, I think you know, the leadership in this community is amazing. And the one thing the council doesn't get to see is how Mike energizes the entire organization. So he really carries the water for the council and does a fantastic job. So from the directors to the front line, so appreciate the opportunity to be here.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Chet.
Council comments. Danny, what do you got tonight? Anything?
Oh, I had a call on the street there in front of the retirement, the assisted living, that street closed.
Right.
Did they anticipate when that would be open?
It's open now.
It is?
Yeah, we had a pipe failure there. So we had to shut the road down, replace the pipe, but it's open. It doesn't have asphalt on it. We're gonna come, but it's got,
It's got steel plates.
no,
still.
it's actually got gravel all the way up to the
Oh,
road, so it's
Oh.
completely open, yep.
okay. That's all I had, Mayor. Thank you. I just was asked that and I didn't have an answer.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
Kevin?
Not much other than thanking Chet for his time with us, and thanks for completing that project out there on the road. It looked good.
Okay. Rob?
Nothing tonight?
Lori?
Well, first, thank you, Chet, and good luck on everything. That'd be number one. It was nice to get to know you and work with you a little bit. Number two, compliments on Miller Park. We've taken Henry down there, and it is just nice. It's beautiful. very well taken care of, and everything looks really good. So I think we just need to let Parks Department know that, you know, people do appreciate and see what they're doing out there, because it looks really nice. And 3, I don't know when it's gonna open, but Ottawa Project, Street Project 2 is just amazing. We Henry and I went down there today too. And, you know, noticed, you know, I know they still have some stuff to do. We about drove in it because the thing was kind of separated a little bit, and Henry said, "Okay, Grandma, go ahead." But no, we stopped and didn't go in there. But it looks like it's coming along really well, so that's just gonna be something really neat for.
Yeah.
We've talked about that for so long.
Yeah.
Here in DeSoto, that it's exciting that it's gonna be opening up soon. So thanks for your role in that too, Chad. I'm sure you had a lot to do with getting that thing as fast as it went through. So.
Should be open in about 2 weeks.
I was gonna
Hopefully
say,
they've
I'll
got-
second that, because I did my run Sunday down to Riverfest Park and beyond and ran that whole new street. It is very nice.
Yeah, it's great. So it's exciting to see some of our long-term projects that I didn't think I maybe would ever see being accomplished. And so that's really exciting. So, but that's it for now.
Thank you, Lori. Kevin?
Yeah, I'll say thanks, Chet, also for your time here, and thanks for responding to my text messages and random phone calls on-off hours. So you are in my cell phone. I'm gonna keep your number handy. But appreciate your work, and shout out to the city road department. Councilman Ritter will appreciate this as well. They've got the ditch along Waverly in front of Arcadian figured out. So they did a really nice job getting that graded
Good
out.
test with this rain we had.
Yeah, it's flowed well. It was not on Waverly. Yeah, it actually goes down the ditch now, and they've got it seeded and hydromulched and graded out like it should be. So good job to the street department.
Okay, thank you. Well, I will close, again, to echo everybody else. Thank you, Chet. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I'll be calling on you over there in Ole. The one thing I did want to bring up, since we got a little time tonight, and I don't know if we want to tackle it or take it on, but walking around the building today, and I walked by these recycle dumpsters over here, and there's trash piled everywhere, and I'm tired of it. And my opinion is maybe it's time for those to go away. And I'm just tired of the constant effort by our staff to keep that cleaned up, and I don't think it's worth it. If we're not going to properly use these dumpster, you know, these recycle bins, and try and use the area as a dump, it's not worth us having it there. And I took some pictures. I'll share them with everybody later. But end of rant.
You know, along that same line, I have a neighbor who wanted to compliment the city on the fact that we do that large bulk pickup day, because like he's like that. You don't know what a service that is, and I'm like, well, we do know what a service it is. That's why we do it. I mean, you know, otherwise getting rid of stuff is hard, and we do that. And so, and you know, I had been thinking about the whole recycling and trash thing, not in the same way that you were, but just wondering, you're going to hate this, that maybe we needed more.
We don't need more here.
You know, well, a second site, you know, somewhere, you know, is there a place, you know, somewhere else that another set of things could go in? My mind goes out by the city shop or the water, you know, shop somewhere else. But yes, if it's a mess, and always going to be a problem as far as this, you know, people that use it as a waste and trash and stuff. I agree. I mean, you know, you know, most of that stuff should be able to be picked up at people's house. So it would be nice to, have a little video camera, just see who's, you know, what's getting dumped and who's doing it. You know, the big box and the big cardboard is nice when you get, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime you get a refrigerator or, you know, whatever, the stove, whatever, and you have all these big boxes to do, and you need really a great thing. But just the you know, the Rotary's newspaper one, you know, we have to go in there and restack it and get rid of all the stuff that isn't supposed to be in it. But there's a lot of work that goes into that particular thing. So, yeah, I don't know what we do.
There's not a lot of newspapers out there anymore.
What's that?
Not a lot of
there
newspapers
are not a lot of
out there anymore
newspapers. You know, a
either.
lot of what we get is junk mail from the post office. They bring things in bins from the post office down there. But yeah, we talk about that too. Is it worth it or not, you know.
Yeah.
But that's besides the point, but yeah, I agree that it's a mess out there, so maybe trying to get somebody to kind of think of it. and
Well, the other
go
thing
through
is it's
processes
taking
or-
space out of that parking
Yeah.
lot. The one time it comes to mind is like when with the DeSoto days, when we're trying to have the big car show there, you've lost that whole corner and there's crap everywhere, it's not real attractive, so.
Maybe there's a better place to put it if we do
Right,
keep it.
maybe it
that's
is the
kinda out of
Public Works
sight,
facility out there.
somewhere out of
Inside
sight
a
a
locked
little bit.
fence so that it's
Yeah.
cameraed, some
Camera
area
in
that's.
somewhere area where we could really kind of watch it and maybe put better restrictions on what we're taking in and not taking in. Maybe it's just cardboard
think
and not all
everybody
the
knows
other
what-
stuff. You know what I mean?
Stuff that would not be picked up at the house.
Well, I mean, what is it
Everybody-
all? There's cardboard
Cardboard,
there?
glass,
and
plastic.
there's glass, plastic, and is it really
Cans,
glass,
aluminum.
plastic necessary there? I mean,
Glass
the
and
cardboard
plastic
is
can go in
probably,
your
because those can
recycle
get
can
on
at home.
at home, so.
Yeah, I think like this, the big cardboard would be the greater need.
But then you're right, because I use the cardboard one frequently for chewy boxes and
Yeah,
things
that's what I
like
do
that.
every 3 weeks. I
Yeah,
come down
I
with
was gonna say
chewing
I'm about every other week, because I don't want to fill our roll-off thing off with gigantic, chewy boxes and stuff. But you go out there and there's pieces of furniture out there.
Exactly.
There was
Everybody
like
knows
a
that's not
curio
recyclable.
cabinet sitting out there, and broken glass, and trash bags laying on the ground next to the recycle dumpster, and that is too bad. I totally agree with you, but I think the bulk cardboard is a great,
Yeah.
because otherwise I just throw it away. But yeah, I can support your rant.
Well, I was really glad to see a second one come on the cardboard because every time I came down there, it was full.
So maybe we can have somebody kind of put, I don't know who, but kind of
Yeah,
get some ideas together.
this will all be music to Jay's ears because he's been, he's had more than one conversation with me over the years. What a hassle it is and the problems, and there's been solutions kicked around, and I'm sure he has some ideas about that. So, let me have that discussion internally. See what we could do from an enforcement standpoint, from an access standpoint, relocating that,
Relocating, I think, is a big
asking
thing.
the question about do we need, does just the cardboard, would that work? Do we need to take glass and plastic? All that. We'll just have that whole discussion. See what needs to be done. Because, in the summer, the parking lot does fill up
Right.
on certain
Yeah, I
days.
think it would be nice to get that out of our parking lot.
Yeah,
A lot of people today.
yeah.
It's just dirty and filthy and icky.
All right.
Okay.
All right. I'm done.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. We are adjourned.
Okay, thanks.
Before I just go yank it out. This one's goofy. I gotta go home and figure out